An early flight home, a door left ajar, what he found inside. Pure horror. Arriving at the airport earlier than expected was one of the rare pleasures life as a businessman allowed me. The feeling of success after closing a crucial negotiation filled me with a pride I hadn't felt in a long time. By selling a large percentage of my company, I knew I was opening doors not only for my future but also for my family's. It was a golden opportunity that I couldn't pass up. As I walked through the airport lobby, the idea of surprising Emily and the kids a day ahead of schedule filled me with excitement. I could already imagine the look of happiness on Emily's face when she saw me walking through the front door. I took a taxi, anxious to get home soon. The road seemed longer than ever, perhaps because of my anticipation of seeing my family again. When I finally arrived, the house was silent, except for laughter and whispers coming from upstairs. Initially, I thought Emily was watching some TV show, but curiosity led me up the stairs towards our bedroom. Each step seemed to echo louder. When I reached the door, it was slightly ajar. I looked through a crack and what I saw left me paralyzed. Emily, my wife, was in bed with another man. The laughter and whispers I had heard were not from a TV show, but from an act of betrayal unfolding before my eyes. "John," Emily exclaimed when she saw me, her expression changing from pleasure to horror in a matter of seconds. Michael, the lover, quickly got up, trying to cover his nakedness with the sheet. What are you doing here?" Emily stammered, her eyes wide. "I should ask you the same, Emily," I replied, trying to remain calm, even though my heart was in pieces. "But I think the answer is pretty obvious." Michael tried to intervene. "John, this isn't what it seems. It's not what it looks like." I interrupted, my voice full of sarcasm and pain. "So please explain to me what exactly I'm seeing." The silence that followed was deafening. Emily couldn't face me, and Michael didn't seem to know where to run. The reality of the situation crashed over me like a crushing wave. The woman I loved, whom I trusted, was blatantly cheating on me in our own home. "Get out, Michael," I finally said, my tone now cool and controlled. "And never come back." Michael picked up his clothes scattered on the floor and hurriedly left without looking back. Emily tried to get closer to me, tears streaming down her face. "John, please, let's talk." "To talk?" I repeated in disbelief. "What is there to talk about, Emily? You betrayed me. You destroyed our family." She began to cry more intensely, but I couldn't bear to be there any longer. Every second in that house was a reminder of what I had just lost. "I need to get out of here," I said, turning to walk away. "I don't know when or if I'll be back." I quickly descended the stairs, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. I got in the car and drove aimlessly, trying to process the betrayal I had just witnessed. The image of Emily and Michael together continued to turn my stomach. My only desire now was to get away, to find a place where I could think, where I could decide what to do next. I arrived at a hotel and checked in almost automatically, my mind still in shock. I went up to the room and threw myself on the bed, staring at the ceiling. How could I have been so blind? Signs of betrayal I had ignored began to form in my mind. The moments when Emily seemed distant, the excuses to leave the house, the phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. How did I not see this before? I muttered to myself, the pain of betrayal slowly turning into anger. I knew I couldn't let this go. Emily and Michael should pay for what they did, and it would be me, John Anderson, who would make sure the truth came out. Leaving the house, I felt the ground disappear beneath my feet. I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. The image of Emily and Michael together in our bed was burned into my mind like a painful tattoo. With shaking hands, I called a taxi and asked it to take me to the nearest hotel. I needed a place to think, a space to organize my thoughts and decide what to do next. Arriving at the hotel, I quickly went to the room and threw myself on the bed. The ceiling seemed to spin, and my head was racing. I closed my eyes, trying to push away the pain and anger that threatened to consume me. Instead, I was flooded with a wave of memories. I remembered the day I met Emily, how we quickly fell in love, our marriage full of promises and dreams. Why would she do that? Where did I go wrong? In the darkness of the room, my mind turned to the little signs I had ignored. The text messages she quickly hid when I approached, the last-minute meetings that kept her out late, the masculine cologne I once smelled on her clothes. How could I have been so blind? I asked myself. Emily's sweet voice echoed in my mind, but now it sounded false. Every "I love you" she'd said felt like a blatant lie. I felt foolish for having blindly believed in her fidelity. I got up from the bed and went to the window. The view of the illuminated city seemed a mockery of my pain. I had to do something. I couldn't just let this go. I decided that I would not let Emily get away with this betrayal. She needed to feel the same pain I felt, needed to be exposed for what she really was. "So that's it, Emily. You thought you could betray me and get away with it," I muttered to myself as a plan began to form in my mind. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to move forward. I picked up the phone and started making some calls. First, I contacted an attorney to understand my legal options. Then I called a private detective. I needed hard evidence, something I could use to expose Emily and Michael publicly. "Hello, is this Detective Carlos? I need your services. It's a case of infidelity," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yes, I can meet you tomorrow. Thank you." I hung up the phone and felt a little more relieved. I had a plan, a purpose. I didn't know exactly how it would all play out, but I was determined to move forward. Emily and Michael didn't know who they were dealing with. I spent the night awake, mentally reviewing every detail of my plan. The pain of betrayal still burned, but now it was accompanied by a growing determination. Emily had destroyed our life together, and I would make sure she faced the consequences. To continue with the full detailed translation as you requested, I'll provide the rest in the next part. The next day, I met with Detective Carlos in his office. He was an older man with a calm demeanor, the kind you'd expect from someone who had seen the worst in people and learned not to judge. "I understand what you're going through," he said as I explained the situation. "But I must warn you, cases like this can be messy. Are you prepared for the consequences?" "Yes," I replied firmly. "I want concrete proof of her betrayal. Photos, recordings, anything that will expose her." Carlos nodded. "I'll do my best to get what you need. It may take a few days, so I ask for your patience." Leaving his office, I felt a mix of anger and anticipation. I was preparing to confront the people who had betrayed me and tear apart the false reality they had created. Over the next few days, I avoided going back home, claiming I needed time to process things. Emily tried to reach me several times, leaving desperate messages asking me to talk to her. Each message felt like a stab to the heart, but I refused to let her manipulate me. I had already fallen for her lies once, and I wouldn't let it happen again. Then, one evening, Carlos called. "I've got what you need," he said, his voice steady. "Meet me in my office." When I arrived, Carlos showed me photos of Emily and Michael together at various places around the city. They looked happy, laughing, holding hands, and sharing intimate moments that once belonged to me alone. Seeing those images was a painful reminder of how easily she had discarded me, but at the same time, it gave me the strength to move forward with my plan. "Thank you, Carlos," I said, closing the folder. "This is exactly what I needed." I paid Carlos for his services and returned to the hotel, ready for the final step of my plan. The next morning, I gathered family and friends, explaining that I wanted to surprise Emily. I sent out an invitation to a celebration dinner, presenting it as an anniversary surprise. When everyone was gathered in the dining room, I took a deep breath and prepared to reveal the truth. "Thank you all for being here," I began, feeling a wave of adrenaline. "Emily, my dear wife, has a surprise in store for us all." Emily looked at me in confusion, and then, as I opened the folder with the evidence of her betrayal, her face turned pale. "I think you'll all find this very enlightening," I said, passing the photos to the guests. Gasps and whispers filled the room as they flipped through the images. Emily tried to defend herself, but her excuses sounded hollow against the undeniable proof of her infidelity. The room was filled with tension and judgment, and I felt a twisted sense of satisfaction seeing her humiliated. At last I turned to her and said, "You betrayed me, destroyed our family, and lied to everyone here, but now the truth is out." With that, I walked out of the room, leaving Emily to face the shame of her actions. I didn't know what the future held for me, but I was certain that I would no longer be bound by lies and betrayal.